Hello, everybody. We are here on the Sound of Inbound, and you're about to meet a very remarkable person that I've known for maybe half of my career. He is behind so many iconic brands. I can name a few, including, let's say, Cisco, we worked on together, John Deere, Raytheon, Pfizer, Whole Foods, Wrangler, UNC Hospitals, Blue Cross Blue Shield, so many amazing brands, and we're going to get to some of those today, I hope. He has been in my life, as I said, for many years. He's a talented creative director, art director, designer. I've even had him write things. You've done all the things, David. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're quite welcome.
I have David Watts here. He's local to our area in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. So thank you, join us. Yes, thank you so much for being here on The Sound of Inbound.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Great to see you too. We used to even be in business together. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I should also drop? Maybe you had some connection to a boy band.
Yeah, I totally forgotten about that.
We totally forgot about that.
I can't even remember the name.
Well, that's funny because they are literally unknown to no one.
Oh, right.
That was a good drop on that one. That was not queued up. Anyway, we have a couple things we thought we would do to kind of kick things off, just kind of have some fun. So because you're so embedded in the design world, and it's a lot what we're going to talk about today, because I think a lot of brands out there are very magnetic because of their design philosophy, their design aesthetic. People connect to them. People are so visual, obviously. So I thought maybe we'd have some fun and do a little bit of the battle of the brands. You up for it?
All right.
I'm going to list a couple of brands. So let's just start off an easy one. FedEx or UPS?
FedEx.
FedEx has a stronger brand?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take it. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Timeless because of that? Or why do you think Coke over Pepsi?
Coke is just so iconic. I mean, it's associated with all over the world with U.S. brands, and actually it's a good product too. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I would say that its icon is also the shape of the bottle. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I love the way that they have used the shape of the bottle in their advertising. Have you seen some of that?
Yes, I love that. Yeah. And I think the shape of the bottle is actually trademarked, I believe.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so they can't be used in other kinds of advertising. Yeah. All right, what about, we'll try to get more modern. So what about like Marvel or DC?
Oh my gosh, Marvel.
Marvel's got a stronger brand. I like that. All right, I'll do one or two more. Target or Walmart?
It's interesting. I would automatically say Target because they have done a great job with their branding, but Walmart is stepping up their game. They really are. And,
they are.
So I've been impressed with that.
But it is just a spark, isn't it? Isn't that their logo? It's like just a...
Yeah, it's just a spark. Yeah, that's actually, I used to work with a guy that works for the agency that does their advertising now, but they've done a great job with it. Yeah.
One more fun one. The U.S. or Canada? There's no politically correct answer on this one, so it's okay. You can pick whichever one you want.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to go down that path.
Which one's got a stronger brand right now?
I would say
in
right
2025?
now it would definitely be Canada.
Canada, I agree,
Yes,
100%.
yes.
Go Canada. I'm going to go with you on that. I think the thing I wanted to kind of get into today with you is our podcast is all around what makes brands magnetic. And I think for all the work that you've done with some major brands out there in the world, I'm wondering what you feel makes a brand timeless.
That's a great question. I think that, as you and I know, you can do the greatest marketing in the world, right? But if the product or the service they're offering isn't what they promised or what they're trying to promise, then it's just going to fizzle. It's not going anywhere. So, one of the characteristics of timeless brands is that they are a great brand and they deliver on what they promise. I think that, it's also relevant. It totally has to be relevant to where people are and what they are looking for and what they want to do and their lifestyle, and just a trust that they have with their clients and their customers, I think is part of being a timeless brand.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up a scandal. You ready? I know you love scandals. This is a guy that will wear white pants after Labor Day, so don't worry about it. One of the things that I recently watched was the whole story around Cracker Barrel.
Right.
And there's a timeless brand, right?
Right.
And how everybody in the world reacted when they tried to update their logo. What do you think? What happened with all that?
We know what happened is that it got politicized, right? So putting that aside, I think that, they were just trying to update the brand. I liked it. I thought it was a great solution. Makes it feel a little more contemporary, a little more relevant to, everybody's lives these days. But then there's something to be said about that old mark and the tradition and the nostalgia around it. So I'm kind of ambivalent about it, but I hate the way that it got politicized. It's just stupid.
Okay, so I hope I'm not putting you on the spot when I say this, but I've always been a huge fan of the work that you've done for Whole Foods. You have, I mean, your work is all over at one point, all over the place with Whole Foods, and you lovingly drew the Ho Man. At least that's what I call him. Give us the story behind that. What was the story behind the drawing of Ho Man?
You know, to be honest with you, I don't remember what the assignment was originally. They wanted something that conveyed, you know, their small farms, you know, sort of local growers, that kind of thing. And so they, you know, suggested somebody working out in the field in a garden, basically. So I was, I think back then, I was actually doing line of cuts. I stopped doing that and did it with Photoshop later on, but it was actually relief print that was cut and printed. And I used a guy that I was working with at the time as the model. Yeah, it just kind of evolved, and then it became very popular in their stores.
That's right.
And all across. It was. Back when I was working with Whole Foods, they were a little disconnected. It was a little unorganized, and now they've certainly centralized it. Now that they've been bought up by Amazon, they're a lot more buttoned up.
Yeah, they are. They don't use that look and feel anymore. So for those that are not totally familiar, you referenced it when you were talking about drawing the Ho Man, but there's a woodcut look and feel to all of that art, and it really persisted across all the different channels that you worked on, if it was going to be in-store, packaging, on trucks, just everywhere. Right. And that became really iconic with their brand. Is that right?
Yeah, it did. I mean, that was 30, maybe 35 years ago when we started that. And back then, I think you see a lot of that now. You know, you see a lot of that kind of woodcut and
I know. I want to credit you for that.
For natural brands, and it makes perfect sense, and that's how we ended up there is that we wanted something that kind of showed the hand at work. You know, because they're very it's a type of artwork that you very much see what's going on with it, what the hand has done, and so it just had that organic, authentic, handmade feel to it that we liked a lot. And now, but anyway, I'm not taking credit for that whole thing.
I'm giving you credit for it. Well, I will say that you're getting to a certain point when it comes to understanding how design can really impact brand, and you were trying to get some undercut story, like the subliminalness of having this hand cut look and feel, feeling like, oh, I'm in a market that's really doing things by hand, and they're really embracing the organic market. But I do think a lot of companies just copied it, and your influence was everywhere after that.
Well, thank you. I don't take credit for that, but it did become very prevalent.
Yes,
very much so. But it was a very intentional decision that we made to do it in that style, and I think it worked well for them.
I'm going to get into the next question here. This is just for fun. I ask about a lot of folks that are on our podcast about brands that they really, really love right now. And it doesn't have to be, the end all be all, but I do like to have, people kind of talk to me about the brands that they're connecting with the most. So do you have one in your life right now that you feel like you're a big super fan of?
So, I was thinking about brands that I interact with like constantly, right? And they're the obvious ones, Amazon and Google, but one brand that I don't even think of as a brand that I interact with probably more than just about anything is the New York Times. So I thought, that's really interesting. So I started digging into it a little bit more, but they're kind of to me epitomize what a good brand is all about, right? They have a great product. They have. For news journalism, they have won so many Pulitzer Prize awards, and it's a trusted source. So they have all these attributes of what a good brand is all about.
Their biggest accomplishment of the new millennia is so important to me and to so many other people out there. Wordle. They bought Wordle. They flippin' bought Wordle, and I thank them for it.
I'm a huge game fan, and particularly word games. And I was doing Wordle before they bought it up.
Oh, me too.
And then I was like, wait, what? New York Times just bought this? This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and you probably have the game app.
Oh my God! Of course I got the. And unfortunately, or fortunately, and I'm glad that New York Times is still with us to this day, and they're making money wherever they gotta make money. But I bought that subscription to use the game app because I want the statistics from the Wordle bot that tells me how my answers have aligned to the rest of the world. I feel connected like that. I think that's kind of an interesting way for them to think about how to evolve a brand that had been in a very specific space in the media world and said, we got to embrace things here. And we used to have a whole crossword puzzle and it went on the, paper every single day, or if it had the, Sudoku and all the other things that people were finding, or just even the cartoons that were out there. So I used to interact with the New York Times when I was little, but then after becoming an adult, just didn't subscribe to it. I didn't. Now I'm back to it.
Yeah, we're talking about inbound marketing, right? But I mean, that's what they do. That's what they do constantly. And
exactly
they're
right.
offering relevant information, and it's not just journalistic news, but there's the game app. They've got a great cooking app, which I use constantly.
Yeah.
They've got a sports app. They have Wirecutter, which is consumer reports. But so they've managed to diversify their offerings to just such a wide range of people in their lifestyles. That's made them
so
almost
perfect.
Invaluable.
Yeah, this is again why you're on this show, because you brought me back to what the reason we're actually here today. It is true that New York Times had a pivot in order to get people to look at them again. Mm-hmm. And you just named a whole bunch of channels that act very much like inbound marketing.
Right.
And you brought that up, and that's amazing because it is exactly true. I wouldn't be interacting with the brand if it wasn't for those other types of channels. The cookbook stuff, which we put on our, we put that at one point on our iPad, and it was sitting in our kitchen. Right. And the same thing goes with the Wirecutter stuff, and the same thing goes with all the games and all the. I mean, you're absolutely correct. I love that. Yeah. So I'm going to switch over. Going to pivot now on the next topics, which is a hard one. Is there a brand that has failed you?
I'm pretty down on Amazon. And it's not necessarily has anything to do with their marketing, but it's just the company itself and their offerings now are just, I don't know.
Well, give me a sense of like how they failed you. What did they do more recently that you're just like, I was not expecting this. You're just not repping well.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I just feel like whenever I'm trying to find something to buy, that everything looks so dang cheap. And honestly, so many things that I do buy on Amazon are just awful. They're just awful stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I think when I'm using the platform, I'm looking for something really specific now.
Right.
And I'm finding out if that organization or company that I'm trying to buy something from has a store on Amazon, because if it is on Prime or anything like that, I know I can get it really, really quickly.
Yeah.
You're actually speaking into stands right now that I got off of Amazon, but I researched them like crazy first, and then I found that they had a store on Amazon.
Well, maybe that just tells you that I'm a lazy shopper. So no, but you're absolutely right, because I'm not a great shopper, and I don't like taking the time and doing the research.
But you're right that it can be a space where you can get into some really garbagey stuff if you're not careful, and that is a failure of their own brand. Like, so to kind of like make a comparison from Amazon, that they own Whole Foods and Whole Foods itself is, my own daughters say this, like they like to shop at Whole Foods, not because it's got any kind of like authority of any sort, or like it's just better than Harris Teeter or whatever else. But they really think that when they go in there, they trust what they're going to buy, that there was a certain level of quality to the food that's in there. Yeah. And so they don't have to think about it and the preservatives and all the other things that they just don't want to think about anymore. But when you shop on Amazon, you never know what you're going to get. Even if the reviews are good, which could have been driven by bots, it could still be a garbagey item. So maybe that's why it's failing you.
Yeah, well, I think so. But to your point, I think if you do the research and put some thought into it, some time, it's gonna do what you want it to do.
You used to do. I think I want to go back to a point here that you actually hinted at earlier when you talked about the work you did for Whole Foods. You were working by hand. Like you were doing a lot of work that was outside of the digital space to a certain extent, and then scanned in maybe. And then at some point you switched over. And actually, when we started working together, can we start a whole debate? Everybody in the comments, tell us if you say Wacom or Wacom. But you would use, I think do we say Wacom tablet, you and I, or are we saying Wacom?
I actually talked with a representative one time. They say Wacom.
Of course they do. Of course they say Wacom. So when you're working in that space, do you find that it's easy to kind of switch from working by hand, because I think you still do art now, or going back to the Wacom tablet and using that as your palette? Yeah,
I actually don't use the Wacom tablet anymore.
Okay.
I have an iPad and I use Procreate, which is not as robust as what I could do with a Wacom, but it's got all the features that I want. It's quick, and it's just very basic and simple, and I like that a lot. So that's what I use now. But I'm trying to learn how to paint, a little more abstract and completely different from what I did as an illustrator or a designer. So that's very hands-on, obviously, but the transition between those two is just night and day.
So for a person who has a lot of talent and can draw, because I can't draw like you draw, but what's your take on having access to all these AI generative tools now versus doing it just by hand? Do you find yourself in the mix or that creative flow where you're like, oh, I could just have a generative AI picture to reference really quickly, or let me just draw it or do my own research? Like, are you using those tools or are you still doing it by hand?
No, I'm actually using them a little bit. I was interested, so I have a subscription to Midjourney. But the way that I've used it so far, and I'm not saying this is how I'm going to continue to use it, but sometimes when you're illustrating something, you need a good piece of reference to draw from. So, and a great example might be, if I were supposed to draw somebody swinging a golf club, well, I can't draw that out of my head because there's so many subtle things going on there. So I would find, usually just a photograph of somebody swinging a golf club, and I would use that as reference.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need reference that's impossible to find.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example in just a second. But and so I use it for reference for things this example, I had to do an illustration of a woman in a wheelchair. It was supposed to be very heroic, almost Marvel comic-like, sort of a low perspective looking up at them. Well, I can't find a piece of reference exactly like that.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So I created that in Midjourney, and it was perfect. I mean, it was exactly what I needed to do. So it's kind of a tool in that way. But I've also used it for when I'm doing preliminary sketches, and I'm just trying to come up with some ideas of ways to approach it. Sort of put the prompt in and allow it to just kind of do whatever it wants to do, and I get some great ideas from that. I've never found, it's never produced anything that I thought, okay, this is perfect, I'm going to send this to the client. But it gives me some great ideas, and it's just kind of a launching point.
Yeah, we do that too. We use it for inspiration, not to replace what we're doing. I have learned more recently that there are tools now where you can draw in 2D, and then the platform will automatically create the 3D object for you.
Oh,
so you can draw like the front of a grill, like you're going to go, like you would grill hamburgers on.
Gotcha.
And it's just the front, and then you can now render it in 3D, so you could turn the entire thing and pivot on it. And I'm like, how would it know what the back of it looks like? But it uses its own generative AI to figure that out.
Right.
So if you drew a dragon from front or even from the side, and it would just go ahead and create the rest of the dragon for you.
Isn't that insane?
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's like one of those places where I just don't know if the human element is still there or not, or if it's needed, or how much more, the usefulness of doing these things by hand are there and are relevant. But for me, I feel like I could see it still. So I think that the talented artists are still wildly needed to come up with that creative vision and that spark to generate, really interesting stuff. If they want to use it, like you said, for inspiration to find AI to get a certain angle, I think that's great. But I would hope that they'd still find the usefulness of actually drawing it themselves.
I hope so. I hope that continues. AI is a great thing, but it's also a very scary thing, as we know. And I think that we're always going to have the human element to it, right?
Yeah.
And it's I'm still pretty good at recognizing AI fakes, but it's getting worse. It's getting harder and harder.
It is getting harder and harder. Okay. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the other work that David has done over the years that still has relevance, I hope, and some other moments you're very, very proud of. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We are back with David Watts. The Kinks wrote music about you at one point. So if you want to go check it out on Spotify or any of the best music services out there, they love David and they wrote a song about you. Yeah. I'm totally lying. Actually, I'm not lying. I'm not lying in that there is a song called David Watts, right?
Yeah, I want to be just like David Watts.
And we all want to be just like David Watts. Okay. There's a couple things I thought we could talk about getting into trends, but also I think it's still a lesson learned about some of the work you've done over the years. And so I'm just curious, no pressure here in this next question, but you've probably worked with hundreds of companies and done thousands of projects because I know when we worked together, we did a lot of work. What would you say is your most proudest project that you could point back to? Or one that you had the most fun with? Yeah, and you're like, that brought it all together for me.
Well, I mean, a lot of the work that I did for Whole Foods comes to mind.
Sure.
But
outside of Whole Foods, what do you think?
Outside of Whole Foods, yeah. So, honestly, and you're going to laugh at this, but the project that we did for Cisco, I've always really liked that. I thought that was just a really good
We should tell everybody about that. So here we live in Raleigh, and we're in the Research Triangle area. And Research Triangle Park is an entire section of the of Raleigh Durham Chapel Hill area that's dedicated for big and small organizations that are kind of in the kind of sciences of sorts, science and technology. So life sciences and technology. And Cisco put a lot of investment in the RTP area to have a campus here on the East Coast. Apple is also building a campus here in RTP, and so does IBM, Google. They all have campuses here in Raleigh in the RTP area. And Cisco was building a learning center. And we were doing other kinds of work for them to help with their different kinds of marketing and telephony marketing, all sorts of interesting projects. But they came to us asking for us to help brand their learning center. So tell them about the project and what you ended up doing. It was great.
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out how to brand the entire entity. So, and I remember that and we had discussions about it, and then you came to me with a particular style, and we both thought, yeah, this is absolutely perfect, right? So I created just a very large piece of artwork. I mean, very complex, and you could crop into certain areas, or you could use it, as the whole entire thing. But it was very colorful, very graphic, and we just took different scientific elements and obviously, imagery that reflected what they do. But we used that and cropped it in different ways, and used the palette and the color palette, and use it for their kiosks and for their wayfinding. There was the big banner that we had out in front.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You gave it a very classic look too. So I think it was a counter to the very high technology that Cisco represents.
Right.
And you gave this much more of like a higher education feel, like you're about to step into a world of learning.
Right.
So I loved that. And then they took that huge art, as you said, and they just leveraged the heck out of it. They just sliced and diced that thing and stuck it everywhere, which we did not realize initially. I think you and I were given a number of assignments for some of the digital kiosks, as you said, some of the wayfinding and signage out front and things like that. But then I think I went over there and they had taken the art and they had like sliced it up and they framed it and stuck it everywhere.
That's that's a nice compliment, but it's also pretty scary.
You never know what they're going to do. But that was a fun project. That was really good. Here's another question though, that could be a hard one to answer. So with all that work you've done, I think for the other designers that are out there that might be listening to these things, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned over the years that you would say you got to take away from all the work you've produced?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that I have any great wisdom to offer on that. But what's worked for me is I just absorb everything visually that I can around me, constantly thinking about it, about design, and then something that you and I have talked about is just having a curiosity about things and exploring and learning. And
we look at things sideways.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
We used to have an agency together called Sideways Creative Branding. Yeah. Pfizer did a really funny thing to us. We went to New York. Do you remember what they did with the signage when they were put out signs for us? We went downstairs. They had at a hotel. They had reserved a big suite for us to do our presentation.
Yeah.
And our our domain was really goofy. And so we showed up at the meeting and for the first time I was like seeing our agency name in little letters, and it said, "We're here for Go Sideways." Like we're like a dead fish going sideways. I'm like, oh, that was not good. That was not a good domain name for us, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I would say one thing that I want to tie back to as far as a lesson learned with you over the years though, is that, yes, the curiosity is important, but I think that you've always tried to find story in the work that you've done, and it doesn't feel too surface level, and it was just done to look cool, that it had some meaning behind it. And that usually had some connection to story. And that actually should be a throw to our dearest shared friend in the world, Josefio Gatans. I'm not allowed to say his name without paying a certain kind of licensing fee. Joseph Gatans, look him up. No, but he's tremendous and has been an amazing partner for us to build that story up. And then you've been an amazing partner to kind of bring it to life. So
I could not agree more. Story is so important, and Joseph is the king of that, right?
Absolutely is.
But you can and visually, yes, you can tell stories, and you absolutely should. And they have to resonate.
Exactly. Yeah. Now looking ahead, so where do you think it's going to go in the next couple of years? Where do you think design's going to head next?
Oh, Lord. Well, AI is obviously going to have some impact on that. I don't know. To be honest with you, So I am retired out of this business now, and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the future of it. I know this is not going to make the edit, so that's okay.
No, I'll tell you why. Because you interact with brands all the time anyway. So I'm
Right.
curious about where you want it to go. Where do you hope it would go?
Well, I hope that design stays. It continues to, first of all, tell those great stories. Right, we just talked about that, but also there's the craft of it all.
How about print?
Well, I think print's going to be around for a long time. I
Yeah.
don't think that's going away. And I think, all the traditional media, print, radio, TV, it's just a perfect complement now to inbound marketing and digital marketing, and two very different animals. Yeah, I guess what I would say is I hope that we keep some of the old school, traditional ways that we did marketing and advertising, and keep some of that, because there was great storytelling. There was, that's when people really started realizing that you need to connect with people and you need to tell an emotive story. And I think we hope that we keep some of that as we move forward.
You asked me earlier where I was recently. We went to that inbound conference, and we did hear some things around where marketing might go soon. But one funny thing that kind of came out of it was that brand awareness was as big and important again, which kind of makes me think about the Mad Men era.
Mm-hmm.
Just general advertising has got value again. It's like what's old is new. It just keeps coming back around.
Right.
So I'm with you that there's a lot of value to all the different channels still.
Yeah,
that we're not just going to be digital. If we do lean in on digital, I'm hoping it would move to a very hyper personalized space.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be, can you imagine a future of this? If you walk into a clothing store and you can pick clothes that are hyper personalized for you, not because somebody already designed it, but it's in a certain aesthetic, but then made for you, designed for you. And like I like that shirt, but it'd be great if it was purple. And then that immediately could create the purple shirt for you in front of you. So it's like that kind of craziness. And I'm thinking in advertising, that's going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
So when you see an ad and I see an ad, even though it's the same campaign, you actually might see something and read something that's a little different that's meant for you.
Yeah.
It has a little more New Zealand and France in it, because that's where David was and that's where David's going. I think it is still valuable to think about the traditional channels, and we're on one right now. I didn't think that audio only would ever have a life in this era, but here we are.
Right.
Although for those that are not listening and watching, I'm with you. I like to watch podcasts. Do you watch or listen to podcasts yourself?
I usually listen.
Listen to them?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So David, as you're working out right now, you're listening to me on your podcast
On
with me right now. Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
weird? We're in multi-dimensions at this point. So I think that, for folks out there that are trying to emerge into this space, start out anew, I think they're all wondering, what does it take to get noticed right now? And I'm curious from your standpoint, I'm sure maybe, do you still do portfolio reviews for folks?
It's been a while since I've done one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a cool tradition. I don't know if anybody knows about that. You want to explain what that is really quickly?
So I have, as young designers get out of school, I'm often asked to do portfolio reviews with them. So we'll sit down and we'll go over their work, and I ask them questions about it, and try to sort of coach them into how, when you go for an actual interview, how do you want to present, how you should be presenting all this. So, but what I'm really interested in is the thinking behind it, and I want them to have solid explanations and sound reasoning for why they made the design decisions that they did. And, because, and the other thing is, you've got to be able to sell your work. I don't know, and I don't want to pick on anybody at all, but I would have designers come in and they would just basically lay their portfolio out there, and it might be great, but it's like, this is my work, here it is. Yeah. Okay.
They couldn't present it.
They could not present it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's a skill that I think is definitely needed as you break into this.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We should probably dig into that for half a second. I think that is an extremely important skill for anybody applying for a job, that you have to be able to explain and justify the work that you've done, and not just be like, yeah, there's the stats, there's the output, but be able to explain where it came from, where it's going, why you did it the way you did, what your role was. But in design, I don't know if design schools actually focus on the presentation piece. Do you think that they do?
I don't know if they do or not. I'm sure that some do.
Okay.
When I was in college and design school, a little bit of that happened, but probably not as much as it was should have had. But if they don't, they should be, right?
They should be. Well,
Yeah.
NC State does follow us, I think, now. So if you want to tell any of the designers out there that are wondering what's the best advice for those that are looking for a new job, I think it's great that you bring in a physical folio. I like that too. I don't want it to be just digital. Like print some stuff out. And then we could talk about it.
Yeah.
You and I have had, I mean, all good discussions. No debate on this. You said something very, I don't even know if you remember saying this, but one thing that was really funny that you said years ago about print's value is that it's persistent. So like, you know, you have these magazines that are out, and you can't swipe left or right. There's no ad that's going to play in its place for a minute. It's still sitting there.
Right.
So I think that when you're in an interview and you bring your work, and it's in its physical form, you could just like show it and talk it out, and it's very tactile. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Would you value that too?
I would, definitely. Yeah, I think that, you know, it just has some power and gravity when you holding something and looking at it, and it's there. It's a thing, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's still really, really effective. Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, I did want to mention NC State design students. They are usually very good at explaining their work. So I just want to put in a plug there.
We work with one, and yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Very, very, very talented across the board, and they are very good at explaining their work and justifying where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Even students from ECU too. We should do a throw out for them. Isn't that your alma mater?
It is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They do a good job too.
And the producer on this show, she actually went to that school as well, in the design school. Okay. Any other kind of advice you might have for folks that are looking for jobs?
The other thing that I usually mention to design students and looking for new jobs is there is definitely the talent part of it, but be responsible, do what you say you're going to do, show up, you know, just all those kind of nuts and bolts things that I think we forget about. And you have no idea how critical that is to people that run agencies.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know, or, you know, work under people. So
I'll finish with one thing too, because I think I want to ask this question of you. If you're going to apply for a marketing agency position or an advertising agency position, you're going to be helping brands to be memorable. And it's extremely important to kind of get down to the root of what makes them so memorable. And that's usually one word. We call it the brand ownership idea. And there are so many organizations out there that struggle trying to figure out what their brand ownership idea might be. And so we help groups like that. But individually, I think we also have to have our own brand ownership idea. So I'm now wondering, ultimate question, what's your one word?
Oh my God,
yes.
For myself?
Yeah, for yourself.
Authenticity.
Okay.
Yeah, I said that with a lot of conviction, didn't I? Authenticity.
It was the biggest dramatic pause. No, yes. I love that. Yeah, and I think it's true to you. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think that, you know, and I think that the ideal ad or marketing effort, whatever, is you want to feel like, because this is one of your questions, right? You want to feel like you're talking to a trusted friend, you know, and you want a warm-blooded human being, and they're offering advice, but it's just that connection, that human connection, that I think is really, really important. So that's what I try to do in my work.
You are quite authentic. I need to, we'll keep this on the podcast, okay, for you. I need to commission a piece from David. Now that I'm finding out that friends of ours are getting commissioned pieces of yours in their homes, and I want to be the next one. No. I think that's a great way to think about it. And if you're going to be applying for a job, that's what you want to do too. You want to try to figure out that one word you want those folks to remember you by after the interview. And then that brings it forward into the job and brings it forward to all the brands that you operate with. And I think that's really important that you do that with all the work that you've done over the years, that it was authentic as well.
Yeah.
So I think I
think that's great advice for somebody starting out, that core thought about yourself, that core concept of yourself. I hadn't really thought about that at that level, but yeah.
It's pretty important.
It's important.
But these days you're traveling the world, and you're going to be heading to Europe soon, and you're going to be enjoying the years of enjoyment now.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you call it? You didn't call it retirement. You're calling it...
Well, I retired from the industry.
Correct.
Advertising and marketing, but I am...
busier than ever?
Oh, yeah. I am so...
So it's busy mint.
So busy, yeah.
You're in the busy mint phase.
Yeah, the busy mint phase. My partner and I we have a calendar we have to like stay on top of just because we are so busy.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, David, this has been excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Sound of Inbound. If you guys want to learn more about David's work, he still does have a website. It's called The Creative Preserve, I think. Is that it still?
Creative Preserve.
Creative Preserve, and it has a couple of samples of your work. You need to put more out there because your work is gorgeous. And it needs more stuff out there. The world needs to see all the wonderful things you've done. I think we talked about doing a coffee book about 20 years ago. Are we ever going to do the coffee book together?
Let me check my schedule.
Check your schedule. Yeah. Okay. All right. Again, David, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. For everybody that's been watching, please, you can check out more of our episodes on soundofinbound.com. We're also available on Spotify, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and YouTube actually as well. So again, check out David Watts online on LinkedIn. You can check him out there if you want to message him, or his website, Creative Preserve. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, everybody. Bye.